will be held virtually. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as it is practicable following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or on silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and officers will be asked to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. But with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you should keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. If any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen at the top right hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in order the requests as they are received. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until you have been invited by the chairperson to do so. Officers from the Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary, we will mute those not being used. Officers will be asked to introduce themselves as and when they are invited to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. We are now going to proceed to the agenda. And if you bear with me, I've been having some difficulties this morning with electronic matters, but the agenda, should we deal with the first item, which is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
We have everyone in attendance.
Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Okay, thank you. Then, so
Chair, I've got a declaration of interest. I did put my hand up. Councillor Walters first, though, I'm afraid.
Right. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Walters.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I need to declare prejudicial interest in item 11 for the same reasons that I did at the last meeting, and I will leave the meeting at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Walters. Councillor Williams, sorry.
Yeah, I've got a personal interest in item 4. I am married to one of the group leaders.
Okay. Can't see that's going to make a great deal of difference to us, but thanks very much for letting us know. And we go on to item 4, which is, we're still item 3, approval of minutes. Can, if you give me a moment while I access the minutes. Okay, can anybody please move that these are a true record of the meeting that we last held on the 29th of June 2021, please? Do we have anybody who can move that these are a true record of our meeting that we held on the 29th of June 2021?
I move, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right, that's the approval of the minutes. We now move on to item 4, which is standards of conduct. So, Kelly, perhaps you're going to take us through this.
Thank you, Chair. Given the training we've just had, I don't intend to take any members through this line by line, but just for the purposes of the meeting, just to confirm that this report is to apprise the committee of the new duties under the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021 in relation to leaders of political groups taking steps to promote and maintain high standards of conduct of their members. Members, you have just had the training offered by Beth and Evans, which I hope you found useful. In terms of the report, I would take you to paragraph 4.2, where we've set out that the group leaders are required to report compliance with their duty to the Standards Committee. And we've set out there some options. So it could take the form of a short letter or a report to the committee at a frequency agreed by the political group leaders and the Standards Committee. Group leaders should also report any serious concerns about members' behaviour which has not been remedied by informal actions, in line with the requirement in the Code for Councillors to report breaches. It's recommended that the Council's political group leaders and the Standards Committee agree on a form and frequency of the report from each group leader to the committee. And as we've discussed, they can either come individually or they can come as a group. It is a matter for the committee and the group leaders to determine. The committee will, at those opportunities, consider the reports and provide feedback to the group leaders. As we stated earlier, annually we then have to report to full council from the Standards Committee to say how they feel the group leaders have complied with this duty over the year. So I'll ask you to note the contents of the report and obviously open it up to discussion from the committee and also from the group leaders about how they would like to move forward with this agenda. We can pull together a template reporting form which group leaders can fill in, obviously at a frequency, or you can have a formal report, or you can ask them to come along and provide a verbal update. So I leave it to the committee and the group leaders to determine the way forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Williams, you have your hand raised.
Hello, thank you.
Hello, Councillor.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, there's another Councillor Williams in here.
Right.
As one of the political group leaders, I was wondering, first of all, whether it might be appropriate for the three of us together, if we're to be working together on this to promote these new recommendations, whether we issue a joint statement saying that we're supportive of this of these new rules, and if we issue something between us, and also whether it would be appropriate, it says to look at a short letter or report, whether it be appropriate to submit this every 6 months, because I think once a year might not be enough. So if we put something to the committee every 6 months, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Well, may I call you Amanda then, so we distinguish you from the other Councillor Williams?
Of course you may. Okay,
thank you, Amanda. Okay, what does anybody think about that? About well, there's two things we have to consider. Is one, the frequency of reports and what form these reports should take. So Councillor Amanda Williams is proposing once every 6 months. Does anybody else have any views on that? Gavin Thomas, you have your hand raised, Gavin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think we really need to try and make it as arduous as possible. We don't want to really have a lot of bureaucracy around it. So if one of the political leads has proposed 6 months and think that's a reasonable suggestion, then I'd like to second that and possibly ask the other leads if they would concur with that time frame.
Thank you, Gav. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, Councillor Hugh David, you've got your hands raised.
Thank you, Chair. I'm certainly supportive of the approach that's been outlined by Councillor Williams. I think it's a sensible one, and of course it's one it's one that you can review in the coming years. And if we need it to be more frequent, we can make it more frequent. If we need it to be less frequent, we can make it less frequent. I'm hoping that we only have positive news to bring to the committee, but obviously if there are issues that need to be reported more frequently, then we can do that. And I also suggest that the reports are concise in nature, because we will want to protect confidentiality, etc., won't we, in terms of members, particularly where we're reporting on relatively minor issues that we wouldn't want, you wouldn't want, and it wouldn't be appropriate to share great detail with you, but we would want to provide a summary to you as the Standards Committee.
Yes,
thanks, Chair.
Yeah, that's wise. I think that particularly the confidentiality part. I think we were told in the training that the confidentiality is important. You might tell us the number of people you had to speak to without having to name the people. That would be helpful. Kelly, you had your hand raised as well.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if you want to take comments from Councillor Thomas first, and then I can perhaps sum up at the end then.
Okay, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I concur with 6 months. I'm happy to do that. I think the monitoring officer has mentioned the possibility of a pro forma, a standardised pro forma. I think that would be a really good idea to avoid the potential of war and peace, but also to avoid any competition between group leaders of those of us who write succinctly and those of us who might want to write war and peace. But I think that would be easier for group leaders and also easier for the Standards Committee to consider as well. So if that pro forma can be considered, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Also, I see Councillor Marty Williams has hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Let me put the camera on if it works. My suggestion was that, well, I would be supportive of everything that's been said, but in order to prompt discussion or prompt some more meaningful feedback, that prior to the letters being written or the responses being written, the group leaders are provided with some facts and figures about performance, whether the number of complaints, training, that sort of thing. So there's something tangible to comment on, but just a suggestion.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. So I think what I've got from that is that you'd quite like the idea of us preparing a pro forma template document which we can circulate. What I would ask is if group leaders can fill that in and perhaps share them with me in advance, just so that we can double check that because it's going to be an open meeting, that there's nothing in there that's going to identify individuals, and then that will come before the committee every 6 months. If the committee can confirm whether they'd like group leaders to attend then to speak to that report and answer queries, that would be helpful. And if you want group leaders to come individually or as a group.
Right. Any views on that? No. So I think what we're saying, and is generally without there haven't been any objections, that it should be twice yearly. We meet every 6 months, and that the report should be presented as a pro forma which leaders can fill in and be viewed by Kelly first of all, and then by the Standards Committee, and that tells the Standard Committee the report each 6 months of how group leaders have dealt with training and any complaints. And again, it's been emphasised, and I'll say it again, without any names.
Yes. Yes, Chair. I think from my perspective, it will probably be useful, and as the leader said, we can amend this and tweak this going forward. It would be useful for the group leaders to attend that meeting so that the Standards Committee can raise any issues with them directly.
Right, yes. Thank you, Kelly.
Chair, I've got one other point, sorry.
Sorry, Kelly, carry on.
It was in relation to Councillor Amanda Williams' suggestion about a joint statement. That's obviously a matter for group leaders. I would be supportive, and it could be a joint statement from the group leaders and myself as the monitoring officer. And what we could do is we could circulate the slides that Bethan used earlier to all members with that joint statement to say, you know, the Standards Committee have considered this, and moving forward, this is how we're going to be dealing with standards issues.
Right, okay. Councillor Gavin Thomas, you had your hands raised first, and then Councillor Walters. So Gavin.
That's fine. So my comment, I guess, was a little bit along the lines of the monitoring officer. Really, it was given that this is a brand new process and a brand new procedure, it would probably be useful for the group leads to have that discussion when the first one's submitted, so that we can just make sure it's working for both parties.
Yeah, I think that's making sense. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Really just to support what Councillor Martin Williams said. I'm a great believer in data, and one of the frustrations in my first term on this committee was that there wasn't an awful lot of data provided, and whether the pro forma could originate, once it's been agreed, it could originate from the committee or Democratic Services, and for example give numbers of councillors who've not attended code of conduct training, for example, as they fall into each political group, because it's the fundamental basis of being a councillor. The first thing you have to do is to attend code of conduct training, and if there are people that haven't, that needs to be dealt with. We don't have a reporting mechanism, as far as I'm aware, inside this committee. So maybe now's the time that we start to think about what metrics we're going to monitor ourselves internally going forward, and that would be a start point for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. I don't see anybody else as Andrew. Yeah, this is going to be new to all of us, to the Standards Committee, to the Monitoring Officer, and particularly to group leaders and the council leader. It's going to be new, and I'm sure it's going to evolve. But I think the proposals that have been made so far make sense, in that it ought to be a 6-monthly frequency, and that the report perhaps initially ought to take the form of a pro forma. And I also can see the point that Councillor Amanda Williams makes about the 3 leaders getting together, so that there is, rather than having 3 separate reports, this is one report that perhaps all the leaders can agree on before it comes to standards. If we took it from there, I don't think there's much further we can go today. I think we took it from there, that we have agreed a frequency, and we have agreed perhaps a form in which the report will take at the moment. And Kelly, you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just on that point, I don't think anybody's suggesting a joint report from the group leaders to the committee. I think those pro formas will have to be individual for each group. I think what Councillor Amanda Williams was suggesting was a joint statement to all members, just to explain this new process. Obviously, Councillor Williams, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that point.
No, that's exactly what I was suggesting. Thanks.
Okay, shall I draft something on behalf of us all and circulate to the group leaders for approval? We can obviously deal with that offline.
Okay, I'm sorry I got that wrong. I misunderstood. Yes, please, Kelly, if you do that.
Thank you, Chair.
Is there anything else we need to discuss on this, Kelly?
I don't think so, Chair. Just in relation to Councillor Walter's point, we do have the data on training, and that is circulated to group leaders, so then they can chase up their members who haven't attended. There are some people missing from the Code of Conduct training who haven't done it yet, and I'm going to be running some sessions for town and community councils, and what I'll be doing is asking that borough members who haven't been yet attend that training. Okay,
thank you, Kelly. Just a moment, Councillor Waters, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kelly. I think my point wasn't to say that it's not being monitored, but it's not being made available for the committee to see. And therefore, when it comes to producing our annual report, which I think is a new duty, I think that there does need to be some data in there that gives the state of play in terms of, you know, what has and hasn't happened. And it's not about naming names, it's about saying, you know, out of 51 borough members, 51 have attended their code of conduct training. Out of 300 town and community councillors, 27 haven't. And you know, this is the action that's being taken about it. So I just want us to see more use of data where we can, because that will give us the opportunity to, I think, start to try and be a bit more proactive. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Ross Thomas, you have an hand raised, Ross?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I just can seek some clarity from the monitoring officer, please. Is it the expectation that group leaders will report on or through the support of legal and democratic services that we will report on mandatory training? So obviously there are certain packages that are mandatory, one of which is the code of conduct. Other training packages offered by the local authority are obviously encouraged. Members are encouraged to attend, but for whatever reason, in spite of making the effort to attend, some members are unable to attend those. So is it what's the expectation there in terms of what we will be reporting on, really? Thanks.
From my perspective, Councillor Thomas, it will be the mandatory training that will be reported at this stage, but it obviously is a matter for this committee. So if they feel they want more data on other training modules, then there's a matter for the committee. But I think the starting point would be the mandatory training.
Okay, Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, that's that. Thanks.
Good. I can't see anybody wishing to speak. Can we say that we've dealt with that item, and that, again, the frequency of the meetings will be 6 months, and the form of the report is something that we will evolve, starting off with the pro forma and the 3 leaders presenting the report. Have I got that right?
Yes, Chair. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then we can move on to the next item on the agenda then, which is the amendments to the Standards Committee Terms of Reference.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just confirm that the group leaders are not required now for any of the other agenda items. Obviously, feel free to stay, but feel free to leave as well.
Yeah, okay, Kelly, thank you. Yes. Councillor Thomas, Councillor Davis and Councillor Amanda Williams, thanks very much for your attendance. And as Kelly has said, you're more than welcome to stay, but if you have other pressing matters, then you go ahead and deal with the pressing matters.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Kelly.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just take you through the Standards Committee Terms of Reference, and this is just to update the committee on amendments to the Standards Committee Terms of Reference as a result of the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, which came into force on the 5th of May 2022. Members, you'll note that a lot of the information in this report is what we've covered in the earlier report and in the training earlier. So I will take you to paragraph 4.1. And there we've set out in some detail the requirements of the 2021 Act as applicable to the Standards Committee. You'll see there's issues for the term of office for elected members, the broadcasting of meetings, and you will see that a multi-locations meetings policy was presented to Council on the 5th of June 2022, and we're in the process now of testing our hybrid system, hoping to roll out proper hybrid meetings in the next month or so. We've got section 62, which we've covered in the previous report about the duties of the political leaders. And then obviously they are the next few bullet points, which section 63 outlines what you have to include in your report, then your annual report. This has been consulted on, as Beth alluded to in the training. We've seen draft guidance, and basically any day we're expecting the proper completed guidance. I therefore ask the committee to consider the detail in the report and confirm that we can amend the Constitution to cover the points that have been raised, and in particular the terms of reference of the Standards Committee.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. Does anybody have anything to say? Any observations of what Kelly has just told us? No, if not, well, thank you very much.
I have raised my hand, Chair.
Oh, sorry, no, I see it, Graham. No, I can't. Okay. Yes,
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's fairly comprehensive, but I'm going to sound like I'm flogging a dead horse here. I think the important thing is that once this has been agreed and approved at our next meeting, we need to set out a framework that we're going to use for our annual report, because it'll be the first time I think that we'll have done one, and if it wouldn't be any good setting up and having to write that at the end of the year. It'd be better to get the framework for it in place now, so that we have measures that we can report on consistently year upon year, so that progress can be compared around things like training, about number of referrals made to the committee, outcomes. Again, not naming any names, but it will start to develop a pattern of trends over a period of time, and it will determine some of the actions that we might take on a proactive basis. So I'd really like to, first of all, accept the item on the agenda, but secondly, to ask for the fallout from that to be placed on the agenda for our next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Graham, thank you very much. Okay, before we do move on to the next item on the agenda, is there anything else that anybody wishes to say about agenda item 5? No, but
Let me just have a second, Chair. Sorry to be pedantic.
right. Okay. We've had a proposal. Can we have a seconder, please? Yes, Phil?
Yeah, yes, Chair, I'm prepared to second it, but I would like to ask one question. In all of these sorts of things, as reports, timing is the key issue. So due attention needs to be given to the timing of when that these reports are prepared, that we can actually scrutinise before we can compile our report and present to full council.
Yes, Philip, you're right. I think these things are new to us, so we're going to have to feel our way through them pretty carefully. I think so far, with the proposals that have been made, are sensible, and I'm sure that as we go along, we're going to reshape them and amend them in some ways. But yes, I agree with what you just said, that perhaps we need to review a report and be satisfied with it before we're going to submit it. So yes, Phil. Anyway, thank you for the seconding, and yes, that's a good point you made. Kelly, you have your hand raised again.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm, so if we bring a report to the next meeting, setting out a framework of what things we can look at, and then what we'll do is, obviously we're working on the basis now of the report from the group leaders on a 6-monthly interval. So we'll set up a timetable, so you get data throughout the year. You'll get the report of the group leaders every 6 months. And then we'll also look at the schedule of meetings for full council to see when it's most appropriate to report back to full council then. So we put that timetable. Obviously, the first year is going to be a bit of a moving feast because of where we are in the schedule of meetings. But hopefully over the course of a couple of years, it will smooth out a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Right. Graham, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm not one to make suggestions in a committee and then do nothing about it. If you, the committee, and Kelly are happy, I'm quite happy to come and spend some time with Kelly or one of her team to help put that framework for an annual report together, if you want.
Well, thank you very much, Graham.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that sounds good. You'd be happy with that, Kelly?
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Walter.
Right. Can't see anybody else's hand right. Anyway, there's been a proposal, it's been seconded if we accept the amendments to the Standards Committee, and that'll take the form of a report that and Councillor Water has volunteered to assist Kelly and her team in preparing that pro forma. So if we're all happy with that, I think we're now in a position to move on to the next item on the agenda. and that's the appointments of the Standards Committee. It's agenda item number 6. Again, I can ask Kelly if you take us through this, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to advise the committee of an amendment to the size and membership of the Standards Committee and of the proposals to appoint a co-opted independent member to the committee. Members, you'll probably be aware of the background to this. Over the last few meetings, we've sometimes struggled to be quorate for a number of different unavoidable reasons. You'll be aware the membership of the Standards Committee shall consist of not less than 5 or more than 9 members, and shall not consist of persons other than members of the relevant authority, the independent co-opted members and community members. The current composition is set out there at 3.2. And as you're aware, the regulations state that where the total number of members of the committee is an even number, at least half that number shall be independent, or if an odd number, a majority need to be independent. And the issue we've had with independent is sometimes we haven't got that balance right. And as I've said, there's been occasion where we haven't been quorate. So what we've done is we went to council on the 20th of July and we've asked them to approve an amendment to the membership so that we can advertise and hopefully recruit an additional independent member. And in accordance with the regulations, it's proposed that I'll go through the process of advertising in 2 newspapers circulating in the area, and then go through the recruitment process for new members. Obviously, they will be interviewed then by the committee, and the appointment will be made by full council on the recommendation of the Standards Committee. Chair, if the committee are in agreement with that, we can get the process started over the next couple of months, and hopefully we'll have somebody in place then early in the new year.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Councillor Water, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And the process by which I first joined this committee 3-4 years ago was that it was also advertised to town and community councils, because a town and community councillor, I think, qualifies as an independent member, regardless of their political persuasion, as it were. Can I ask, does the 12-month time limit apply to town and community councillors or former town and community councillors as it does borough members? And whether, I'm not sure on, I just need some clarity on that.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. If they're appointed as an independent member, it's agreed by the committee and they're appointed for a period of not less than 4 and not more than 6, but they can be reappointed for a consecutive term. So the independents we've got at the moment, I think 2, if not 3, have recently been appointed for their second term. But obviously once that term is finished, they can't do another term after that. Yeah, so if community councillors are appointed as a community councillor, that will be different. But if they just happen to be a community councillor and they're appointed as an independent member, they'd be subject to that requirement. Yeah, forgive me, just, and I probably didn't explain myself very well. If somebody stood down as a town and community councillor last May and so therefore are not elected, did I read somewhere that there's a 12-month period that must elapse from having been an elected member before you could become an independent member of this committee? And if so, does that apply to town and community members, is what I guess what I'm asking. Sorry, Councillor Walter, yeah, I hadn't appreciated that point. Yes, that does still apply. I will need to double check, but I think it applies to all members, or it will apply to town and community councillors as well. But we'll double check that point before we go out to advert.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Were you happy with that, Graham?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Martin Williams has his hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. I thought I understood, and I got a bit confused. So, are we saying that a town and community, a sitting town and community councillor, is eligible to stand to apply to be an independent member? Is that what was said then? Because then I got confused because of the standing down and the 12-month thing. Sorry, committee. I got a bit confused there.
Right, Kelly, can you explain it to us? Well, I won't tell you the way I understood it. I'll let Kelly do it. It'll be far clearer.
Thank you, Chair. What I'll do is I'll pull together some guidance and I'll get that circulated before we advertise, because there were some changes in the Local Government Wales Act that just come out. So to make sure we're all clear, what I'll do is I'll write a short briefing and I'll get that circulated to everybody, so everybody's on the same page. And then when we advertise, we do usually send that to town and community councils to circulate through their networks as well. So we'd appreciate that being promoted. So that's all right with the committee. I'll get that out to you next week.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I think it is important. I know I do appreciate the difficulty that not just this authority but other authorities have in recruiting independent members. I don't know whether it sounds like a dull job. It's certainly not, but there is difficulty, and we've got to be looking to the future, because some of us have not only done 3 score and 10, we've done 3 score and a score. So ain't too much mileage left in it. Okay, if we're happy with that, can we have somebody to propose that and second it, so we can move on to the next agenda item?
I'll propose, Chair.
Thank you very much, Graham.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. Okay, we can move on to agenda item number 7. That's the Ombudsman's annual letter. Right. Is there anything exciting there, Kelly?
No. So this is an annual letter, and we have to present it to the Ombudsman. What I did want to flag up is that under the new legislation we've been talking about, there are now some responsibilities on the Governance and Audit Committee to also deal with complaints. So what we are going to do is, because obviously we don't want duplication, we are going to try to streamline the process to make sure that the information is going to the right committees at the right time. But for this year, obviously we've attached at Appendix 1 the annual letter for this year. And as you can see, the number of complaints against the authority reported to the Ombudsman was 55, and that's in comparison with 31 in 2021. The reason for that, the Ombudsman's opinion is that it was slightly suppressed during the pandemic, and now that we're coming out of the pandemic, those numbers are increasing again. Of those complaints, of those 55, the Ombudsman intervened in 7 of them. 1 complaint proceeded to a full investigation and was upheld. 9 were considered out of jurisdiction and 22 were premature, so they would be sent back to the authority to follow the internal process first. As you can see, Children's Social Services and Education attract the largest number of complaints, and I think that's been consistent for a few years now. Yeah. And then in relation to code of conduct complaints, 9 were received by the Ombudsman during the period. 1 was discontinued. 1 was referred to the adjudication panel, and in 7 cases there was no evidence of a breach found. There were 21 code of conduct complaints against town and community councils in Bridgend, none of which have been referred to the Standards Committee. 7 were discontinued, and 14 there was no evidence of a breach. Unless there's any questions, Chair, I would just ask you to note the recommendation, which is to note the annual letter. Okay,
thank you very much, Kelly. Councillor Martin Williams.
Yeah, apologies, Chair. I'm trying to rival Graham now with things to say, but I note that report and it is what it is, but I am concerned about the number of town and community council complaints, and in particular the fact that of the 21 that went in, none really, none had any substance, none made it to this committee or anywhere else. And I don't know whether my councillor colleagues recognise this, but I am concerned that the complaints process is being weaponised, for want of a better description. I think we're seeing a lot of, if not councillor on councillor complaints, certainly activist on councillor complaints, and I just wanted to note that really. I know of someone who has been subject to a number of complaints over a few years, none of which, as far as I'm aware, have amounted to anything, and it has caused that councillor great distress. And great distress, not just annoyance or upset, real distress. And whilst we don't have any power to do anything about that necessarily, I just wanted to note the fact that I think it is a concern, and I think I think we should all be concerned actually that it's easy to make a complaint. It's very difficult when you're the person subject to that, particularly if you might have repeated complaints and you believe them to be politically motivated. So that's really making a point, really. I don't think we can necessarily do anything, but I hope my colleagues recognise that, and perhaps under the new duties that the group leaders have as well, we can perhaps do something about that as councillors, perhaps even if we can't do anything as a committee.
Yes, thank you very much. If we'd be fooling ourselves, I think, if we had any organisation that didn't have any complaints. There are going to be complaints. The person making the complaint would have a genuine reason for making them. But if, as you describe, and it does happen, there is the vendetta type of complaints, or your words weaponise it, then you're absolutely right in what you say. I think leaders or maybe even other councillors recognise this, and they ought to step in, because it's totally unfair. It does nothing at all to help politics or governance or the role of a councillor if councillors are going to be, or even groups on, and dare I say that happens more on town councils and community councils than it would on a borough council, because perhaps it's, if I can use the words, closer to the ground. But if it is going on, it needs to stop. I know of other authorities many years ago had exactly the same thing, and they did, the councillors themselves stamped on it and put a stop to it. So you're right. I think if people recognise this sort of complaint, the repetitive complaint against one person just to gain whatever they think they're gaining, then leaders and perhaps colleagues on the council should be stepping in and putting a stop to it. Kelly.
Thanks, Chair. It was just to agree really with Councillor Martin Williams, and obviously what you've just said is that I definitely see far more town and community council complaints coming through, not just via the Ombudsman, the formal ones, but also the very informal ones. Genuinely, it probably takes up half my week dealing with the complaints. I think the difference is that in the borough council, we have got group leaders, we have got experienced members, and that is perhaps that more of a support network available for members. So if I get something, I try to deal with it informally. If it's member on member, I'll always ask those members if they're prepared to, sit around the table with me and we sort of thrash it out. And I think that does solve quite a lot of the issues before they're escalated to the Ombudsman. I don't necessarily know if that happens in all community councils. And obviously town and community councils vary in degrees as well to the size and the resources they've got available. I can make myself available to town and community councils for training, to assist where necessary, but I think in some of our town and community councils at the moment, things have spiralled quite badly. And I think it needs more than code of conduct training. I think it needs some more serious intervention, perhaps in certain, and certainly that doesn't apply to all town and community councils. We have got some that I never hear from, and we got others that I hear from almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Councillor Martin Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. All I'd like to add there is that I don't think people truly appreciate how isolating the process can be for councillors, because you're told quite clearly, of course, by the Ombudsman that you mustn't discuss it. You shouldn't discuss this with anyone, and that can put you in a that can put someone in a very isolated position, and they can feel quite alone and not really sure what's going on. You know, that's the nature of being on the receiving end of a complaint. And I just wanted to add that, really, just that I don't think we should underestimate if an organisation is complained against, we're all, you know, you're all in it together, aren't you? But I think it is by its very nature extremely personal and isolated. And I just wanted to just reinforce that point, really. But and thank you for both your comments on that.
Thank you, Councillor. No, you're absolutely right. It is. It's unfair for a councillor to be subjected to that sort of stress and pressure. Now, perhaps from where I stand, I often find that the complaints are very often generated by political rivalry over matters of sort of local interest, rather than the complaint being genuine. It's what you just described it as. It's a weapon to where political rivals might use a complaints procedure to achieve, I don't know what they are achieving, but it certainly shouldn't be allowed to happen. And there are things like intervention from leaders and training and lots of other things that we can be doing to stop this happening, because it's a complete waste of time. Thank you, Kelly. I got that off my chest. I'm feeling better now. Right. Are there any other remarks, any comments, any observations on agenda item 7? If not, can I ask that somebody move that we accept the report and a seconder, please?
I move accept.
Thank you very much, Graham.
Second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Right, and we're on to agenda item 8, the adjudication panel for Wales, a code of conduct decision. Where are we now? Yeah, okay, Kelly, perhaps you could help us again.
Thank you, Chair. This report is to notify the committee of a recent case tribunal decision of the adjudication panel for Wales, and this is in respect of a former member, Gordon Lewis. So you'll be aware that the council has a standards committee, but separately then there's the ombudsman and the adjudication panel for Wales. The adjudication panel has 2 statutory functions. One is to form a tribunal to consider referrals from the ombudsman, and secondary, to consider appeals from members against a decision made by the standards committee. In this case, the adjudication panel dealt with a referral from the ombudsman directly, so this isn't something that has been considered by the standards committee. It's gone straight to the adjudication panel. Yeah. So they formed a tribunal to hear the allegations against former member Gordon Lewis. They dealt with this on the 10th of June 2022, and they found by unanimous decision that that former councillor Gordon Lewis was subject to the code of conduct at the time, and that was in relation to his role in Pencoed Town Council. And they found that he had failed to comply with paragraph 61A of the code, having deliberately or recklessly completed election paperwork which falsely declared he was eligible to stand for election. He also continued to act as a member despite being disqualified from being elected. The case tribunal concluded by unanimous decision that Gordon Lewis be disqualified for a period of 24 months from being or becoming a member of Pencoed Town Council or of any other relevant authority. A copy of the notice is appended to your report, and I'd ask the members to note the decision of the adjudication panel. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Any observations on this? Oh, okay. Could somebody please accept this?
I move we accept it.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Gavin. Okay, we can move on to agenda item 11. And I know, Graham, you want to be, you've got an interest in this.
I have, Chair, but I think, is it not item 9? Any urgent items?
Oh, sorry, yeah. If you forgive me, I'm having some technical difficulties today, but right, yeah. Yes, item 9, sorry, it's the urgent items. Beg your pardon. Do we have any, Kelly? No, none. Okay. And 10, item 10, exclusion of the public.
In which case, Chair, I'll now leave the meeting and thank you for this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Graham. Thanks very much. Okay, let me get.
Chair, if I can just quickly run through the test, because obviously we have to formally exclude the public.
Yeah.
This is in relation to approval of some exempt minutes. The committee will recall that you agreed that the substantive item should be dealt with in exempt session. So those same requirements will apply now when you're considering the minutes. So my advice to the committee is that you should move into exempt session.
Okay, we all agreed on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Gavin Thomas. Right, so okay, we've got the exempt minutes now. Okay. Can I just make sure? Okay, I think I'm right. Okay, Kelly, can you lead us through, please?
Thanks, Chair. This is just to approve the minutes from your meeting of the 23rd of June 2022. This is when we considered the Ombudsman referral in relation to Councillor Sean Aspey. It was agreed that this would move to a hearing, which was convened, but due to the period of national mourning, it's had to be postponed. There is a new date in the calendar, I think at the end of November. We are waiting on Councillor Aspey to confirm his attendance at that hearing, but the papers and everything will be sent out in advance, and you'll be notified if Councillor Aspey's attending and if he's bringing a witness.
Okay, thank you very much. Any views on this? Yes, Councillor, Gavin Thomas.
Yeah, can I move that they were true record of the previous meeting?
Okay, thank you, Gavin. And the seconder?
Yes, I'll second it.
Thank you, Phil. And that completes our agenda, I think. I do apologise again, I'm a bit disorganised today, but earlier on I said good afternoon was a greeting, not an opinion. It's been a bit muddled up. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance, and